right, so as we know, switching gears here, as we know, some very troubling news in the Middle East involving Israel and the Palestinians. Joining me this time from Los Angeles to update us on events and comment on them is the news director of JewTube.info. That's JewTube, as J-O-O. His name is Scott Jacobs. Scott, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Rick. Pleasure to be with you.
First of all, I've got to ask you about the name, JewTube. Why not J-E-W? Why J-O-O, or was J-E-W already taken?
Well, we are JEWTube.info, and we also are JOOTube .tv. As you can see, there's our logo there, J-O-O. And the reason is because it's the revenge of the Jew, J-O-O, which is in the blogosphere, the convenient scapegoat for all the ills of the Arab world.
I see. All right. Now that makes sense. And you know, what's happening over there is heartbreaking. You know, first of all, we see the 3 Israeli teenagers kidnapped, murdered. Arabs cheer in the streets and celebrate the news of the 3 murdered teenagers, and since then, Israel has used her right to defend herself. Now we see Hamas launching rockets into Tel Aviv. What's the latest?
You know, Hamas has been launching rockets for the past 10 years into Israel. In 2005, Israel withdrew from Gaza, August, just to show the neighbor-worthiness of the so-called Palestinian state. And Israel sacrificed a tremendous settlement in Gush Katif in Gaza. They withdrew the IDF, and so the Palestinians, instead of building their state, they moved their bombs closer to Israeli population centers. And why do they do that? Because their goal is the elimination of the Jewish state. And so let there be no confusion in that this asymmetrical war where the Palestinians try to show a disproportionate response, their goal is not where the borders are drawn. Their goal is the elimination of a Jewish presence in the region.
That's right.
And by that, I mean a Judeo-Christian presence, because Israel is a holy place for both Judaism and Christianity. Their goal, and of course with their sponsors from Turkey and from Iran, their goal is the elimination of the Jewish state and the conquest of it in Allah's name.
The violence is now escalating between Israel and the Palestinians, led by Hamas. Where do you think this is going, Scott Jacobs, in the near term?
Well, let's hope that it means the elimination of the Hamas leadership at any price, because, of course, they call for ceasefire now that they're behind the 8 ball. But of course, this is their goal. Their goal in an asymmetric war is to make Israel look as bad as possible. But they're ultimately, in this Palestinian unity government, their goal is to replace Israel with an Islamist Palestine.
Do you believe that the elimination of Hamas leadership will cause this violence to cease, or take a temporary rest while they reshuffle the deck?
I think at this stage it may be necessary for Israel to reoccupy Gaza, as it was a mistake to withdraw in the first place, many would argue. And so it's important. You notice that there are no rockets coming from the West Bank. Why? Because Israel's occupying there, and they go in if they need to. And so they may have to do the same thing in Gaza to stop us, because these rockets are not happening without the approval of the Hamas leadership. And so if they can go in, they may do a much better job of cleansing. Of course, there are other approaches. Israel could have cut off the water. They could have cut off the electricity. They could have cut off and then forced the population. But unfortunately, the residents of Gaza are being held hostage by the Islamists, who are a branch of this global jihad. And the Islamist goal is to create empathyable humanitarian causes for humanitarian aid, which they can continue absconding, which has been their mission since Yasser Arafat learned it from the KGB.
Now, on the other side of what's going on, there's this grisly news story out there that a Palestinian teen was burned to death, burned while alive. Of course, the world is outraged, as they should be, just as the world should be outraged at the 3 Israeli teens. Would you like to take this time to comment on that death?
I wouldn't, but since you called me on it, Judaism is not a religion of peace. It's a religion of an eye for an eye. And in this particular case, of course, it's a shame that it couldn't have been against a more culpable enemy. But if this is a war between sides, and it's a war that the Palestinians have started and continue to occasionally one of them's going to get hurt, especially when we just had the 12th anniversary of the first jihadist attack in California, and It was at El Al at LAX, and an Orange County Egyptian came in and shot up the counter. And the FBI wanted to make it seem like it was just an ordinary crime, but it's not. It's part of this global jihadist network, the same jihadist network that ISIS is establishing a caliphate in Syria and in Iraq, that we're fighting in Iraq, and any notion to separate the Israeli-Palestinian conflict, as you'll see it on the 3 major networks, and Al Jazeera, which is all anti-Israel all the time,
right,
despite their pledges.
Right.